Yo, so this album originally started out as a concept album that I wanted to do about a scientist that creates this drug that affects society. But unfortunately, I kind of give up on that idea, but there are fragments of that throughout the album. So I just wanted to record this and say that because I don't know, I'm halfway through, recording this commentary and I just haven't said that. So I just want to record this, put it at the beginning and yeah. All right, so I'm going to start the video. Yo, I just want to say thank you to anyone who checked out my new album. And I also want to encourage anyone listening to this to, check it out. It's called Unregistered Kush. It's a collaborative album between me and a producer out of Chicago named Unregistered User. So it's not really just my album, it's kind of like our album. And, Just Waz also has a beat on here. And Just Waz is a producer and rapper out of Long Island, New York, and he also mixed and mastered this entire project. So I just want to break each song down and just explain, what this project is, at least from my perspective. All right, so I'll be right back. Yo, so Unregistered Kush is 10 songs, and the first song is called What is Unregistered Kush? This song does not feature any rapping at all. It just kind of features a beat and just different samples that I took from different documentaries about different drugs like acid, PCP, and like K2. And I just kind of took specific parts of where people would talk about the side effects of these drugs, and I kind of like put them together as like an audio collage. And that's just because I kind of wanted the samples to kind of answer the question of what's presented in the song title, which is like, what is unregistered Kush? And the one thing I kind of realized while doing this is kind of how difficult it is to mix and master songs like this, because all the audio is from different, it's recorded differently in all these different documentaries and different forms of media. So it's kind of different. It's kind of difficult to actually mix and master stuff like that. So it kind of really made me appreciate how MF Doom kind of does those interludes and like other, rappers kind of that have done stuff like that. It made me realize like, oh, there's a real talent to kind of like finding audio that pairs together well, but also sounds together well in a sense of like how the recording was done. But I still kind of like how this song came out, even though a lot of the audio samples kind of sound like very faded to me. But it does kind of create this like smoky or kind of foggy atmosphere, which I kind of feel like does a nice introduction to the song, to the song that comes after it. So I'm going to talk about the next track and I'll be right back. So not all of the samples come directly from me. The sample on this track was put there by Just Waz. And it features the actor Robert Blake when he was interviewed about his performance for the movie Lost Highway and just kind of his experience while filming that movie. And I kind of wanted to use this track to kind of present someone that is very kind of like confused and kind of like worried about their surroundings, but also kind of trying to see clarity through that. I feel like the instrumental kind of like pairs well with those kind of thoughts, and that's kind of what I thought when I first heard the beat. And I kind of wanted to use this track to kind of just explain that there's no real concept to the mixtape. I mean the album or the project. It's kind of like this thing that's all over the place, but is paired together through these samples and instrumentals and kind of like these similar patterns of thought that you could kind of see, in each song a little bit. So I'm going to get more into that as I talk about the next track. So the next track is called Lost Poet Part 4. It's a continuation of the Lost Poet series, which I kind of started on There's Always Hope Volume 5. This track kind of describes a very paranoid individual, kind of a conceptual artist that believes his idea is being stolen by his assistant, and then the assistant is kind of on the run because I guess the assistant did steal his idea. And this song then follows, the assistant trying to escape, I guess, and in the end getting caught with the line about, thought he was alone in this Sin City, but he realizes there's more eyes than Mississippi, or something. Or he realizes the hills have more eyes than Mississippi. I forget the bar exactly, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm messing it up. I feel like that's pretty bad. That's a bad look. But anyway, Lost Poet Part 4 kind of, presents this idea of paranoia. It kind of, it's an interesting beat as well. Like the beat is almost like vaporwave or something, and it kind of has this almost kind of like 1980s vibe to it that I feel like almost kind of has an interesting contrast to the lyrics being presented. And I also just wanted to explain the samples on this album too. The samples come from a movie which is called, I think, The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, which is like a horror movie from the 1950s. And I kind of took these samples about this like mad scientist that they're trying to like track down. And it kind of goes with the theme of this, assistant of a conceptual artist that kind of is running off with his idea or whatever. Also, I just wanted to talk about this other artist named William Popel. Kind of, one of the unifying themes or just similar patterns that kind of pop up throughout the album. I do borrow a lot of samples from interviews with this artist named William Popel. And, he was an artist that was born in Newark, New Jersey, and he did a lot of performance art. He was very well known for his crawling performance, events. One, for example, is the Thompson Square Crawl, where he would crawl around Thompson Square Park, and he was dressed as a businessman that was pushing a small flower pot. And, William Popel was always an interesting artist to me. I feel like I don't really understand why his name is not brought up more, I guess, in terms of like, just black art. But I kind of, I don't know why when I started recording this album, for some reason I kept thinking about, some of his performances that I had heard about while I was in college. And, that's what inspired me to kind of use samples from his interviews within this album. Even though there's not a real concrete reasoning as to why. Okay, so the next song is called Suspended Animation. One thing that's very interesting about this track is that the first track, I use a sample that mentions suspended animation. I found that sample after I made this song, and I, decided to give it the title Suspended Animation. I also did want to make another point, and just kind of, to show whoever's listening to this, to show that it's not purely just my thought, being made for all the choices that are, that were decided on for this mixtape. So the song before it, Butter Please, with the interview sample from William Popel, that's actually the original name of the beat. And I thought it was very interesting that Unregistered User had spelled Butter Please in the way that he did. And I thought that was dope. So I was like, yo, I'm going to just keep this as the song title. And that's also not the full beat. He had sent me that beat to rap over, but I decided to just use it as this interlude. But Suspended Animation is a dope song. And I feel like something that's really interesting about it is that it sounds like something Stones Throw Records would have put out in like 2007 or 2008. Like there's this album by Guilty Simpson off of Stones Throw, and a lot of the beats on there kind of remind me of the beat for Suspended Animation. Also, I think all those beats are Madlib beats. The album was called Ode to the Ghetto, and it was released around 2008. Some of these lines are actually taken from my real life. Like this is probably one of the, there's probably 2 or 3 songs on here that are like extremely honest, and not in a way that's just like I'm being honest about my pain, but just in a way that's like these things that I'm saying are very specific to me. When I say the line about my dad listening to Stanley Clarke and the Rolling Stones, that's actually extremely true. Like my dad did listen to the Rolling Stones and Stanley Clarke a lot during my entire life, like even up until now. But I'm going to play a song that didn't make the album. That's going to be the way I'm going to end this video. I am going to record a part 2 where I talk about the second half of the album. Yeah, but this next song, it didn't really make the album. It didn't really, but it straight up didn't make the album, because I didn't like what I was doing on the beat. I didn't like what I was doing on the beat. Also, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to like guide the engineer on how to mix this because the beat is like kind of drumless, but it's a very experimental sounding beat.
Daydream hypnotic, let's be honest. The referee comments, level of crime, raising off a dead beat's promise. Find the recipe, they steadily upon us. Better be garnished, death for college. Your methamphetamine garbage. I see size, tsunami into cautious. I rewind the sacrifice before the harvest. Realize you lost, so you off this. Peel your flesh, your lungs were a cartridge. I know your breath stinks, you talk shit. I get head like the Comanche scalping a settler. There's a minor bought by your local senator. I'm Schwarzenegger, a Don Cheadle to a predator. Within the visual collage, this was the message from the editor. Programmed by a Christian background. Instead of exhaling, you suffocate the last sound of a sad clown in a bad town. Helicopter crashing, they still didn't back down. They still going at it. Waking up to screaming in self-defense. Whatever it was, it got through the fence or the air vent. Only can rely on the common sense. Ran from the rest stop, looking back and seeing nothing. They say I'm rushing, scared to go to sleep because of the concussion. Orgasms and death caused by the Iranian machine gun. Separating the subgenres, then return to the black core. Certified like a passport. Like badminton, you was a bad sport. From where it's 30 below, but civilians even had shorts.